All right, let's cut with that. This is the Indie Show. We are live here. That is just a little intro video that my friend Brent Durner put together for me. And I thought I'd just play that tonight. As an opening, we got a great show tonight. We got Darrell Millar waiting in the wings, and we're going to be talking about all things Killer Dwarfs. We're going to be talking about all things indie music and a whole lot more tonight with our friend Darrell Millar. And waiting in the wings as well is my co-host Sean McKenna of the podcast Bar Stools and Band Talk, all the way from Halifax. There he is.
I thought I'd take this off because it's a little too hot, but the end of the road, or is it?
There it is. We're at the end of the road. We'll see if it is the end of the road, but
yeah,
you never know. One never knows, right?
That's right, with Kiss.
That's right. You never know with those guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to be talking to our friend Darrell. You know, it's really funny. I did this Google search on Darrell, and it comes up Darrell Dwarf.
Yeah.
And the first thing that pops up is Facebook, Darrell Dwarf, Darrell Millar, IMDb, and it talks about him there as well. Darrell Dwarf Millar on X, on Facebook again, Sabian, Wikipedia, Killer Dwarfs, Instagram, Darrell Dwarf. Oh my God! And the list just goes on. I mean, he's all over the place, man.
He's got a lot to go.
This is a guy who is really working hard to brand himself and staying with the technology. And I really love what he's doing out there in social media. And I love his posts about his life as well and his love of the Buccaneers. Anyway, without further ado, there he is.
Hey! How you doing, boys?
Great to have you here.
Yeah. I wasn't going to do any more interviews this year, to tell you the truth, and I'm giving you guys my last interview of the year. Sean, I like Sean a lot. Great guy. I've done his show. And
awesome.
I just I kind of shut down in December, and I don't do any interviews, so I granted you guys this one, and you're my last one.
So, well, I appreciate that, sir.
Cheers. Yeah. Cheers.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You've got a long career it goes back an awful long way.
It's insane. Yes.
And the thing is, you've built yourself a really great resume along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to be a sought after commodity sometime.
What do you think? So I'm a sought after pirate. The greatest thing that I've stumbled into, other than my long rock career with Killer Dwarfs and a few other artists, is the writing of books, the author thing. I'm working on my third book right now, and I've really learned so much from becoming an author. It's been really an education, and I realized I had a knack for writing, and a company I was working with in Montreal that I deal with as publishing with my books, they said, you're a great writer. You should not stop. You should continue on. So my first book was Guardian of a Timekeeper, which was not about my rock career, but a great book. People really love it. And it's actually 10 chapters of near-death experiences I've had. It's kind of like a Final Destination, the movie, but it's me, including falling down the stairs I was telling you about earlier.
Right.
I died so many times, but
that can be a scary thing when that happens.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe I'm a real pirate. But I've lived through some crazy shit, I'll tell you that. And now the new books, they're in volumes. It's called Thunderfoot, Chronicles of a Rock and Roll Pirate. That is my biography. And volume 1 has been out for a couple of years now, and I'm writing volume 2 now, and it will be out next year. So
you got me interested. You know what? I haven't read your books, but I'm going to buy them.
Okay, thank you. They're on Amazon or they're on dunkspirateshop.com. autograph.
I've been working my way through Neil Peart's books.
Oh, yeah, I read the one book. Wow, heavy.
They're just so much they're thought provoking, and I think if you've taken that approach to your writing, then your stories, the things you share in your book, are going to help other people.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm a great storyteller. That anybody that knows me from touring that's ever hung out in a hotel room with me at any kind of an after show party knows that. I tell a good story.
matey, have you ever been to sea before?
Yeah. Oh, I won't say the rest.
Yeah. Tell us about Sphinx.
Wow. You're just throwing that at me, something from high school?
Well, this is something that got you started in music, right? I mean, was Sphinx? Was it? I mean, I think of that name,
yes,
and I think prog rock.
Yeah, right. Well, that's in my book, actually, the book that's out now. That there's a whole chapter on Sphinx, because Sphinx was my high school band and beyond, and that's what started my career, that band. And we were together for 5-6 years. We toured the whole country of Canada right out of high school. We did compose some original tunes. And speaking of prog rock, we were a three-piece band, and Rush was probably our favorite band, along with Ted Nugent, some other bands of the day. So we were definitely kind of like a Rush Triumph kind of thing, because I used to sing 18 songs from the drums. So I was kind of a Gilmore sort of vibe. But
nice.
But we did a ton of Rush tunes. Like we did Anthem and Bastille Day and all these tunes. I mean, we were pretty much a cover band. We were playing 3 45-minute sets a night in the clubs with that band. And we moved to Alberta.
Did you record anything?
We did. We recorded 4 songs. There's a 4-song EP. So we did achieve 4 original works.
Is it out on digital?
Well, it's not out on digital, but I did rescue the masters from Quest Recording Studio in Oshawa, and I put it out on CD. I put it out on CD, but I only did a run of 50 on my label, Uncle Doug.
I'd put it exclusively up on our website if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll put it out to digital, because I haven't done anything with it in years. I sold off the 50 units that I put out, and that was it. Never thought about it again, really.
So we would have had we had the potential of another Canadian sort of power trio band.
Absolutely, and
wow,
the band was a good band too. Like, I mean, we were great players. It was a good band, and that's when I met Russ. And Russ saw Sphinx, and he was in an Alice Cooper tribute band, and we met in Quebec City, and he saw my band, and I was talking to Angelo, the bass player from the Dwarfs, at this reunion thing we just had, and he told me, he goes, "That Sphinx band was amazing. I thought you guys were unreal when we seen you in Quebec City." I didn't see ourselves like that, but he did. But Russ and I met, and I had really ran my course with that, and Sean being a drummer, I was getting tired of singing that many songs and not concentrating on drumming, because I don't know if any drummers out there that sing know that it's quite a task to do that, number one, and it really does take away from your playing, like it really does. And
singing and bass playing are also very difficult to do as well.
Yeah, sure. So I was really looking forward to, when Russ and I put the Killer Dwarfs together, I was looking forward to progressing as a drummer, to tell you the truth. And so that's why I never sang live in the Killer Dwarfs. I've sang all backing vocals in the studio, but I never sang live in the Killer Dwarfs. I've just played drums, and it's been great. I can't. 40 years of it. It's been awesome.
There was a song, and I can't remember the title of it. Maybe Sean might know it, but you might know it, Darrell. You might be able to say it for me. I played it on the back of the trailer for tonight's show, and it's off your first Killer Dwarfs album.
Yeah, I can tell you all the songs off that. What one? What's the lyrics or what?
Yeah,
You gotta give me a hint. You gotta play me a little snippet, and I'll guess it.
I'm going to go to your discography here because I can't remember exactly which song it was, but it was right off the first album, and I'm like,
First
that is a
track?
killer. Yeah, might be the first track off the first album.
If it is, it's a song called "Are You Ready?"
So that album
starts
here,
with guitar, just guitar intro. It's
Yeah.
called "Are You Ready?" What was that, Sean?
I said that album out here, and I told you this before, Darrell. I mean, when that album first came out, it really stuck. Q104 was just starting. We didn't really have an FM rock station,
right?
And that album played, and I mean they played deep cuts too, right? They didn't just play your hits, and it was so cool because, you know, we really felt like, you know, when you guys eventually get out here, it was going to be a big deal because we never get to hear that type of, you know, high vocals and just really cool, catchy songs, right? And it was an important album in these parts.
Right. Well, big deal. By the way, is our third album. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, Sean. And it's interesting how you perceive your own work. It's a weird animal to listen to yourself, kind of, you know, and critique your own work. It's always probably the hardest thing. But this radio station out here in the Toronto area, Rock 94 in Oshawa, they just played the full album of Stand Tall on Friday night.
Nice.
Last 94 The Rock in Oshawa. And they played the whole album. And I tuned in because Lee Ackley is the DJ. He's a great DJ. We've known him for years. And it was really neat to hear that record on the radio, the whole album, every song. I haven't listened to that album since it came out, probably in 1987. I don't know when
they played the whole live album.
No, they played Stand Tall, our second album. They played the whole album in its entirety. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because you mentioned the first album. I think last Friday when I listened to it was the first time I realized how different Stand Tall is as to our first album.
No question. I guess you guys were probably trying to go for a little bit more of a, I don't know, like get your foot into the States or whatever. I mean, and Stand Tall is an amazing record too. I mean, that was again, because there's a bit of time between the first one and the second one, correct?
Yeah, there was, because it was member changes. So we actually were not thinking, oh, we need to write a different kind of record, or we weren't thinking, oh, we need to break into America, so let's try to write these poppy hit metal songs.
When was Stand Tall?
Not at all.
When was it released?
1987.
So it was just ahead of Big Deal.
Yes, just ahead of 86. Really, it came out. Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
86.
So why isn't it on digital? I don't see it on digital.
Because it's this sought after gem of ours that Epic Records has the record. We basically sold the record to Epic when we signed our deal with Epic, the 3 record deals. So they had control of it, and it's kind of lost, to tell you the truth. We're going to get it back. It's just taking some time because we've got most of our catalog back. But one more thing I want to say is I understand now why some of the fans said, well, your first album's really heavy and your second album's not as heavy. Well, it's heavy in a different way, you know, because 2 new members, Mike Hall and Ron Bad Rombo, came into the band, and Bryce and Ange left. So you're looking at a major chemistry change. And Mike Hall became a strong writer for the band, and he was a Berkeley graduate. Like, he was a Pat Metheny type guy.
Right.
So I'm gonna back you up just a second. So back to 1983, somewhere between 83 and back a ways, Sphinx comes to an end.
Right. And Sphinx became Killer Dwarfs. 2 members, Bryce and I from Sphinx, joined Ange and Russ from his band Oz, and we fused to be the Killer Dwarfs. That's what happened.
Oh, okay. And so that was what year?
1981.
So 81, 2 years you guys are writing your first album.
Yeah.
And you guys record and release that album in 1983.
Right, with Attic Records, yeah.
Right, and that was a self-titled album.
Right, debut. That was our debut.
Right, 13 tracks on that album.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big project.
Yeah, I think there's some bonus tracks if you're saying 13. I think the original album didn't have 13. And here's the thing. We demoed some of the Sphinx songs with Russ singing on them. And this label dumped them onto that album you're talking about with the 13 songs. I'm not
Oh my
kidding you.
God.
We lost control of it all. Okay. We don't control that album. We knew what we were signing. We signed our publishing away on that album because we were getting a rock video, and our lawyer said, sign it. You guys are, sign it. You're getting a thing called the rock video. It's going to be cutting edge. You're not going to make any money on it. It's a terrible deal, but you guys are playing in the clubs. You're being offered a record deal and a video. I'd sign it. And he talked us into doing it, and I don't regret it at all. But our first album wasn't a money-making thing. It was hey, we're the Killer Dwarfs, and the world discovered us is what it was. I have to thank Attic Records because the world did discover us. England, all these places never heard of us, knew who we were because of Attic Records and that first album.
And you guys got a lot of supporters out there. I mean, I know a guy locally here. Just the name James Rickett ring a bell with you at all?
James Rickett? Yeah.
Yeah.
He lives in London, Ontario. He's one of the longest standing members of Dwarf Nation. He's one of our biggest fans. And he's one of our biggest fans of all time, that dude.
Jamie Rickett.
I have a beer going here. I'm going to toast James Rickett.
Have you ever heard Jamie play guitar?
He's great. He wears two different This guy, he wears two different colored running shoes. It's weird. I wear Converse, right? Red ones. He wears a blue and red one. He wears two different ones. I always thought that was funny. Yeah, he's a great little guitar player. He's into Southern rock and stuff, which I'm really into. I mean, like Leonard Skinner. I toured with Leonard Skinner and stuff back in the 90s, and I'm a big Southern rock fan, actually.
He played with a cover band called Cranked. Locally here. Yeah. And they used to do a rendition of Triumph's Rock and Roll Machine.
Oh, great song.
It was one of the best covers I've ever heard.
Yeah. Triumph was a great band.
Cover band. Yeah.
They were. Triumph was an excellent rock band. I love them.
I mean, you guys had to have been influenced by them.
Absolutely. I'm not going to say we weren't. And not only that, it gets a little deeper because our first album was produced by their producer at Phase One, where they recorded their first album.
Whoa.
I'm not kidding you. That's a little trivia. Yeah, Doug Hill produced Triumph's first album, and he produced the Killer Dwarfs' first album.
Wow.
And even more trivia, I had a shitty Tama drum kit back then that was kind of beat to shit from touring the bars for years and years. I had an Imperial Star kit that was like Gilmore's silver ones, the same ones. And when we went to record the album, Doug said, we got to get you another drum kit. I mean, this kid isn't recording worthy. And I said, sure, no problem. So I ended up ordering my Slingerland kit that I ended up with that was like Neil Peart's kit with all the concert toms and stuff that's on the video, Heavy Metal Breakdown. I ordered that kit right away, but it took time for it to come in from the US. So I didn't have a kit to record our first album, and Doug arranged to get Gary McGracken's Milestone kit.
Nice.
The white ones that Max Webster that he used to tour with. So that kit is what recorded the Killer Dwarfs' first album, Gary McGracken's White Milestones. And I love Max Webster. I was blown away. I had Gary's drums in the studio. I was like a kid, man. I was so blown away recording that first album. I was like so effing excited. I was so excited. I was like 20 years old, 21, whatever it was. Crazy.
Are you guys still playing clubs?
We try not to tell you the truth. Okay. Nothing against clubs. I mean, we played so many of them in our whole career, but these days we actually don't play many. I mean, like I said, we basically try not to play clubs. There's not really like a lot left to play. Number one.
Right. Would you play a large club for like a special event? Like for example,
large clubs are different.
Like somebody celebrating their 65th birthday and it's like 300 people that can come.
Yeah. I don't know. Birthday parties? We're not Van Halen from 1978. I don't think so, brother. Nah, we're kind of we're more a casino kind of band now. We're getting elderly. We play a lot of casinos and festivals and stuff. We try our best to do as many of those a year as we can. I'm not saying we don't play clubs ever. I mean, but they're concert clubs, like the Phoenix Concert Theater. We like to play venues. Like we just played this great venue in Oshawa for our last show of the year for our 40th anniversary. It was called the Biltmore Theater in Oshawa. Fantastic. Right. It's a club technically, but it's a theater, old theater. But it's an 800 seater, and like I love playing that kind of venue. It's got the balcony, and it's an old theater. It's really nostalgic, but it's essentially a bar, though. They serve alcohol and all that. But we sold it out. It was fantastic.
You guys might like the Walkerville,
Walkerville Theater. Yeah, you're in London?
No, the Walkerville Theater in Windsor.
Oh, where are you though? Are you in Windsor?
No, I'm in St. Thomas.
Oh, St. Thomas. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we did play a club in London a couple of months ago, and that's the first one we played in a long time. But we have a little bit of a soft spot for it. It's called the East Side in London. The East Side. It's an old kind of dirty rock bar from the 70s, and it hasn't changed. And right. Brian Vollmer comes out every time, and it's always nice to have him there because we've toured with Helix enough. So he's always at that show, and I don't mind playing that room, and we pack it. It holds probably 400, maybe 400 right. people. So that we did play there.
But the East Side's for a club, East Side's got really great production though too.
Do they ever? The light show's even great in that club. You see the videos on YouTube after, and you're like, wow, you wouldn't know that was a club because the light show's big. It's like, I really enjoyed the gig. I liked it.
Yeah, they've done it up right there for sure. We've got a smaller venue in St. Thomas that's done a similar thing.
Oh yeah,
they're a 300 seat. It's the old Labor Temple in St. Thomas, and they converted it into a bar.
Right.
And it's a club.
Right. Well, I'll tell you
full
one
production too.
I'll tell you one thing. Russ and I have talked quite a bit lately about this. We want to play everywhere and anywhere, really, right now. We want to tour. The Killer Dwarfs want to play live and tour. If we could do 300 shows a year, we would. So we're in a new headspace right now with agents and stuff. We have a manager, Rob Zach's our manager. He's been with us for the last 13 years.
Is he a road manager for you?
He's our manager and our road manager. He likes to come out to just be a part of it. So he comes out. He's our road manager too. But he's done a great job. He's done a great job with us. But Russ and I manage ourselves. At the same time. So we've just discussed. We really need to go to Australia, and we really need to go to Japan, and we really need to do these things before we're fucking dead. Plain and simple.
Right.
So we stepped it up. Believe me, we've been looking at so many different agents right now, and we have some good agents already. We always have for the last decade of touring, but we need more. We need more, and we need to play a lot more shows. That's the bottom line with the Killer Dwarfs.
It's interesting, Darrell, because in my podcast, I get to interview all kinds of people in the States, and the Canadian, I'll always ask them, what Canadian bands, April Wine they name, Triumph they name, Rush they name. Yeah. Helix every now and again, but Killer Dwarfs is always in that conversation. And I was talking to a friend of mine in Phoenix. He's like, man, I used to listen to those guys all the time. I'm like, really? That's pretty cool. Do you guys realize, I know you had to push and you recorded your album in LA and whatnot, but do you realize, the following that you have down south of the border?
Yeah, we do, because the last 13 years, well, since 2013, we've been back full time. We haven't stopped since then. So the majority of the dates were in the USA that we've done, and we love the US. Not that we don't love Canada. Of course, we love Canada. We never leave. We live here. And we've done so many great shows in Canada too, but the US is just a bigger market. There's more people, and they love metal. They love rock. They're insane for show business down there in the States. They have a better respect for it than most countries. They really do. And we love the US, and that's what exactly, I can't tell you too much about it, but that's exactly what we've concentrated on the last year, agent wise. We're in the process of landing these key agents so America gets to see us more, because we're not playing there enough.
And there's a lot of mid-size, like smaller to mid-size venues there that pay well.
Absolutely. It's just math. It's just math about money, right? Like, money is math, right? So the size of venue versus ticket sales versus how much the promoter wants to make and how much the band wants to make, that dictates where you're playing, really. So for us to play smaller clubs, we can't really, because we have a set price and we have to stick to that price. And you can't gouge the fans for hundreds of dollars for tickets. I know that's happening, but we don't do that. We don't. So we'd have to sell tickets for $100 a piece to play a club for us to get paid and for the promoter to get paid. So that's really why you don't see us playing every city in the US, because there's not always a venue for us there. But things are going to change. Things are going to change for us, and America especially is going to see more shows from us, and Canada will always see shows. And like, Sean, you're down east. We're trying to get down there and play those markets, no matter where we play. Tell you the truth, down there.
And the thing is that you don't, you can't ride for free. So there's a lot of expenses when you're on tour.
Exactly. Like, nobody puts that into account, and we're not even traveling with a road crew like we used to. We used to travel with minimum 3 guys. I had a drum tech, the whole thing, right? Now we just bring Robbie. Robbie's our stage manager. He doesn't lug gear and set gear up. So the way we found we can do it feasibly in this day and age of rock is we started flying everywhere. We started doing the fly-ins and having our gear supplied, which really sucks for me because I get a different drum kit every city.
Right.
But we found out that's how to do it now. And most bands are doing that. Like Winger and all these other bands, if they're not on a tour with another band in a package, they're all flying in and doing the same thing. The promoters supply the back line. I bring as much as I can on the plane. I bring cymbals, pedals, a seat, snare drum, stuff just to keep me comfortable. And then they supply stands and shells, basically. So that's how it works these days for the Killer Dwarfs. Most of the touring is done through flying.
That's smart. It's funny. I get to know Sean Duncan, who he plays in LA Guns now. And
just did a show with him. Great guy out west. We did a festival with LA Guns in the summer. Yeah, and Sean, I met him for the first time. Go ahead.
Super cool guy. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
He talks about when they go out, they get on the bus and they go out and do it. He actually says he would prefer if they would do the fly-in dates, just because, he's got a job and, he works on criminal minds and different sorts of things. So for him, it would be easier because he's got to get time off of his, everyday life.
Yeah.
So, your preference would be to do it that way, or do you enjoy doing the flyouts?
If you want to know the truth, I don't mind the fly out thing at all. Fly in, they go. I don't mind that at all. I think it's great, but I would love to have a tour bus and do it that way. Like the old days when we had a bus, they were the best times. And we used to love, sleeping on the bus, doing 3 days on the bus in a hotel. You always get a shower room. There's a way to do it, but buses, the prices went through the roof on them. They're just astronomical. It's through the roof now. It's just not feasible to have one unless you're on a 2-month tour. We haven't been on one of those in a while. If we're on a 2-month tour, we'll get a bus. There's some buses out there that are not Florida Coach, that are cheaper, independent companies. But a bus is just, it's not a rock star thing or nothing like that. It's a comfort zone thing. Russ and I especially, we just love to have our home. It's a home on wheels, and it's and you just have your home to go to. You can get dressed. You don't have to go into the dressing rooms of some of these dumpier theaters and stuff. You know, just stay on the bus. It's got a fridge and beers and comfort and TVs, and it's just the bus is great.
It's like having the closest thing to being home.
Exactly. I'd probably have my dog on the damn bus if we had one now. And I mean, you can go to sleep when you want, when you get tired. I mean, we're not fucking kids anymore, you know, like we're not kids, man. We like to get, you know, have a good sleep to do these shows.
Anybody that follows Darrell knows he's got one of the coolest freaking dogs out there, man.
Yeah.
So
my dog Jasper. Yeah.
Every time you see Darrell, he's always got him at some pub in Toronto having a beer, and he's sitting there minding his business, just hanging out, enjoying life.
Yeah.
What breed is Jasper?
He's a corgi. I'll show you a picture. Okay. He's running around here somewhere, but I'll show you a picture of him. Here he is. He's just walked me to the pub. You see that?
That's him there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do this dog walk in the summer. It's winter now, so we're not doing it as much. But there's one of my favorite pubs is down on Front Street here in Toronto. And that damn dog, he knows he gets a snack and stuff. He gets a few treats from the staff and whatnot. So really, that's why he does it. But he literally drags me down the street to that pub on the walk. And then I'm forced to have a beer, and I don't mind that. So Sean knows that. He sees it on Facebook.
Yeah.
How
far a walk is that? How far does he take you for a walk?
About a kilometer and a half to that pub. So that's a good walk. Kilometer and a half down, one back. So like 3 kilometers the whole walk.
Right.
Pretty good walk.
That's good for a small dog.
Yeah, they're quick though. The corgis are like a tank. Eh? They're low to the ground, short legs, but they're like a little big dog. They got a big bark, and they're like a little tank. They're cool dogs. I can see why the Queen had so many. Why she loved them.
I did 6 kilometers today with my retrievers, and
nice.
they wanted to do 6 more.
Oh, I bet. I know they're definitely dogs that need a good walk.
Holy crap. I mean, they run and play all the time in the backyard, but still they got to be walked all the time. They love their walks.
All dogs have to. You have to walk your dog daily. He gets 2 walks a day, my dog.
So, Darrell, I know you're a football fan, Buccaneers.
Yeah.
And I've asked a few people this. I'm a football fan as well. Giants,
a
rough go last little bit, but
good Giants game. That was a good one the other night.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I watched it.
Alex Smith a couple weeks ago made the comment about, and I know Brady wound up with your team there, but he made the comment about, the Patriots had the easiest division in the league. Therefore, that's why Tom Brady won so much. I'd love to get your opinion on that.
Oh man, you know what? I will admit one thing. I was not a fan of Tom Brady. Not many are if you're not a Patriots fan, because the guy was a legend. He was so great. And when anybody wins that many Super Bowls, you hate the guy if you're from another team. I'm a Bucs fan. I've been a Bucs fan for decades. If anything, the NFC South, my division, is the worst division. It's fucking awful. That's the only division I know where 500 football teams make the playoffs. Like there's like 500 football and under is the whole division right now. Like, and so I don't believe that at all. Brady's division wasn't. He didn't win. He won because he's great, not because he had an easy ride in that division. Because once you get into the playoffs, Sean, then it's a whole different world. It's like hockey too. You go all season battling, but your first playoff run, it's all the chips are on the table. What you did all season means nothing.
You're a Bucs fan though, right?
Yeah.
And as a Bucs fan, you that's your team you root for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I go fly down to the games. I go to the games. Somebody asked me, I was at a Buffalo Bills event the other day, and I wore my Mike Allstott jersey to the Buffalo Bills event.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't like that so much, but they asked me, how did you end up being a Bucs fan? And I said, well, originally I was a Denver Broncos fan. and I was living in America back then, and I was a big Elway fan. And Elway was one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, like a Brady almost, like great, fantastic quarterback. But after he retired, I just found that I was deflated. I couldn't get behind Denver anymore. I needed a change. And so I became a Bucks fan because I liked their uniforms. I like the whole pirate thing, the red, when they got the red uniforms with I just said, I'm going for these guys. That's badass cheerleaders and uniforms. I'm a Bucks fan now. I just did it out of a whim, kind of, right? Like just saying I'm going to do that, but it stuck. I stayed with them because of Mike Allstott. He became my favorite player, and then they won a
And
Super
the
Bowl.
whole pirate thing, the Buccaneer thing, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool for you too, because that fits into your branding, right?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't so much a pirate back then. 22 years ago, I didn't even have the goatee and all that yet. I kind of evolved into that through the Bucks and through, kind of my other band, Automan, that I was in as a lead singer and all that. That whole image came about because of that. But yeah, I've enjoyed my run with the Bucks. I got a lot of friends down there in Tampa, and we go to the tailgates, my wife and I, and they're just great people. Their tailgates are so fun, and Raymond James is a nice stadium, and Bucks have been a great team to be a fan of. Actually, I don't win or lose. I love the team. I'm not that kind of fan. If they're shit, they're shit. Everybody's not great every game.
Sure that. I want to talk a little bit about the pirate thing because you've got a brand of coffee.
Yes, that's a new one. Everybody's like, here he goes again. But the thing is, I have a shop. Okay, like, oh, there's my corgi. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I have a shop called dunkspirateshop.com, and I started that 9 years ago, that site. And it was basically for collectible items from me for the fans to purchase. Drumsticks, certain things, drum heads, certain things for real fans of mine and the Killer Dwarfs. And that's how I started it. And it was extra income. I do this full time. I don't have a job. I'm in a rock band. That's my job. So I have these other avenues of entertainment in the entertainment business that make me money as well. So I got offered this coffee deal, and I was really stoked about it. And they also have LA Guns and Todd Kearns and all these guys. And it's a great company from Winnipeg, and it's called Writers and Rockers Coffee Company. Here it is here. And I have my own Dunk's Pirate Brew. I have my own coffee now with this company. Great people. My coffee is whole bean, dark roast with bourbon infused vanilla bean. Sounds like something a pirate would be into.
Did you try it before you endorsed that one?
Before, yeah, absolutely. They asked me what kind of coffee I like. I told them not the bourbon part, but I told them about I'm really into strong coffee, dark roast, whatever. So they said, let us send you out a sample of something we think you're going to like. And they sent this out. They sent me a bag to try before no one even knew about this. And I drank the coffee for 2 weeks. And I called up Robert and said, I love this coffee. Now I'm going to be buying the coffee off you. You're going to be making the money off me, for fuck's sakes. So in a weird way, it's kind of true. I do purchase my own coffee, believe it or not. But I mean, it's a trip, right? But anyway, I got a deal with them. They cut me a deal. It's pretty cool, and it's another income, and I'm kind of excited about it. And I've had some people purchase it, and they've called me and said the coffee's really good. Congratulations.
And you don't have to look after the marketing for that. They take care of all that.
I know. I like to market things, so I'm helping anyway. I'm doing my own marketing.
Okay.
But they do everything. That's the cool thing about this. They do everything, and then they just cut me a check once a month. They do everything. They market it. They sell it on their site. And, I can sell it as well, though, like at the shows and stuff. But it's been kind of fun. It's been fun. And I actually do like the coffee, though. I didn't think I'd ever do a coffee thing. I always thought it would be more of a rum guy, get a rum endorsement. That didn't happen yet. I just got the coffee for now.
Or maybe you get the bourbon endorsement down the road. There's a guy that's on our label. He tours all down in the Iowa area. He's
Right.
from Fort Dodge, Iowa, and their band is called Brutal Republic. He
Mhm.
makes a living full time off music just like you do,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he plays an insane number of shows a year.
Right. Yeah, that's the
And
best scenario, to play an insane amount of shows a year. That's the best
yeah,
scenario for a musician.
that's what he likes, and he's he's one of these cool, laid back kind of dudes. I met him online, and he loves smoking cigars and drinking bourbon.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I mean, musicians. There's a lot of musicians that are. You get to be entrepreneurial in this business because, by and large, you're an independent contractor, and I mean, it's great to see that you're doing that, Darrell.
100%, Sean. 100%. If you're not, if you don't have that mindset, it's pretty tough to be a career musician. It really is. Like, I
You
mean,
got to have that business mindset.
Yeah, you do, because rock and roll is not always hot. You're hot when you're hot, but there's a lot of downtime. And there's, the Killer Dwarfs, for example, during the grunge era, we had a meeting and literally went away. Didn't break up, but we just said we have to end for a while and see what the music business is going to do, because we're not wanted anymore. That's what it felt like.
So what anybody watching this needs to know about Darrell, though? You are a marketer extraordinaire, because I see you do that all the time. But you're also very accessible, and I want to tell a funny story. Do you remember the story you and I were going back and forth about the Yamaha pedal?
Mm-hmm.
So
Holy crap.
Darrell was going to purchase this Yamaha direct drive pedal, and I had tried one out, and I said, you might want to try it, but you might not like it. And I gave him the reasons why. He tried it, and he messaged me the next day and said, you were 100% correct. You went back to your DW 9000 or something. Is that correct?
I was shocked when you told me that.
Yep.
When you told me that, I was shocked when I actually played those pedals, and they were, I mean, I'm old school, but I just couldn't get a handle on that pedal. I couldn't get any. I couldn't even kick double, like Bonham stuff, like double kick kind of things. Like I just couldn't. The pedal just did not work for me. And then I talked to Paul DeLong, who is one of the greatest drummers around. Yep. And he said the same thing to me. He says he can't play the new age pedals that are really built for speed like that. Yeah. He plays an old 5000 still. DW. Yep. Paul DeLong. So I play Cobras though. I play Iron Cobras. Right on. I went back to that.
I will tell you what, that Yamaha pedal, there is a chain drive which I bought, and it's fast, but I was told by a lot of guys that I deal with, like the drum guy here locally, it's a muscle memory thing. Your muscles are so used to the chain drive that you try something else. The direct drive, you're right. They almost play themselves. They're so fast, and it's a weird feeling.
Yeah, I'm a power guy though. Like I kick hard, and I need to have a pedal that allows me to use my foot and leg. Like, I mean, I hit hard and I kick hard. Like that's just my style. That's my style. And that pedal, there's no need to kick hard on it. You can just you can just set your foot on it and it hits the drum. The direct drive.
It's interesting when you talk about preferences like stuff like that, because our drummer, I've built my studio kit around him.
Oh yeah.
And because he's the main guy that comes in and uses the studio kit whenever we record. And so I had a buddy of mine sell me a Pearl ELX kit quite a while ago, and we pimped the kit completely.
Nice.
And now we built everything around it. So he was bringing his Iron Cobra over all the time, right? And I said, well, come over with me over Long and McQuaid, and we'll look at double kicks, because I want you to be happy with something. He said, well, I want to try a couple of other ones out. He ended up picking the DW.
Yeah. Well, you know what? DW, you can't go wrong with them. They're like, they make the greatest drums and pedals. I'm with D Drum, which I love the company and all that, but DW's set in stone. They make really quality drum kits, and their pedals are the best around. The Cobras are very similar to to the 5,000s and the 9,000s, whatever. They're very, very similar. They really are, the chain, right? But I played DW pedals for 15 years. And then I went to the Cobras because I wanted to change just to try. I think I played someone else's kit and I really liked the Cobras. That's how it happened. I just wanted to change because the chain was breaking on me on the old 5,000s. Remember, they would break sometimes. They would come
and
loose.
it's funny. It's funny on those because you can do a lot of adjustments.
Yeah. On
on
what?
those
On the
pedals.
Cobras? On what
On
pedals?
the action. On the action of the pedal. Oh, on these ones that I have.
Oh, on the ones you have. Oh, are they do you have the new the top of the line DW pedals? They're are they 9,000s that Neil Peart played those? Neil Peart played those 9,000s. Do you know what model it is?
Really I'd have to go take a look at it, but it's a decent model. And like I said, our drummer is the guy who picked it out. And he said, I really like it. It's really smooth. The cam is really smooth on it. He said, I really like that feel.
Yeah, they're
so
great.
I said, well,
they're great pedals.
And we'll get that for the studio because I wanted him to be comfortable, and I didn't want him to have to keep bringing his kick over every time he came up back and forth, right?
That's
because you know what that's like. You're always having to set up all over again, right? So
right. Oh, I just noticed the chat on the side. I didn't see that before.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Darrell, how's it going? Red D Film. How's it going?
That's Brent Durner.
Oh, is it? Oh, hey, Brent.
Yeah,
great guy.
Brent's a good friend of ours.
Brent's
a good friend of ours.
I go back a long way with Helix. I used to go to a lot of their shows back in the 80s and hang out, and we'd just be on the road too. And I saw some great Helix shows back the early days. We were in the studio singing on their albums as guests. Russ and I sang on Rock You. We were in the studio with them yelling and doing all like, give me an R, all that stuff. We were there. We were there when they were recording that stuff, Russ and I.
Well, so here's something, Darrell, that Brent brought it up, and I'll ask it a different way. He says, what about the songwriting? But are the Dwarfs, is there any plans to do any new material? I know it's such a weird sort of time and loaded question, but.
Yeah, what does he mean about the songwriting? Like, are we writing?
Yeah, I'm going to assume
absolutely. It's a great question. Fans have been asking us about new material for a long time, and it seems like when you're a band like ours or Helix, even for that matter, really they want to hear your hit songs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a band from our era that's been around as long as us, if we wrote a whole new album and only played that album, they'd be pissed off buying a ticket. It wouldn't go well. I've seen Maiden do it even. I've seen Maiden play too many new songs and not some of their hits, and fans have come up to me and said, I was pissed off at that Maiden show. They didn't play my songs, blah, blah, blah. Bands are like that. But Killer Dwarfs have some new music, and we figure we're going to release it for sure this year. But what happened is we went in to track these 2 new songs. We were just going to release 2 songs to start instead of a full album this time. And we ended up taking the songs out on tour and playing the songs, and they became a different animal and way better songs. So now we got to go back in and retrack those songs, but they're great tunes. And we've been playing them live. One of them called Weight of the World. Great song. I love the tune.
You know, a guy named Keith Hill says hi.
Hi, Keith. I see that.
From the Sioux.
But the good news is the songs are there, and we've worked them out. We've been playing them live, and we've been getting huge applause for the songs. So, to me, that's fantastic. That means we can add a couple of new songs into our set, which we've already done. But we're still playing all the hits, Spirit and Stand Tall and Weapons and Union of Pride and all the tunes, because that's really what they want to hear when they come to a Killer Dwarf show. But the new music's happening. We're going to be in the studio in the new year, get them done, put them out, and you'll finally have some new Dwarf stuff. There you go.
Quick question about that. So you guys are writing, and knowing Brent's question is probably more about what's your approach to songwriting?
Right. Well, it's an easy one with the Killer Dwarfs because Russ is like the Neil Peart of the band. He writes all the lyrics, and he's became quite a songwriter himself. He plays guitar, and he's up there in Aurelia in his house up there, and has lots of time on his hands. And he's wrote a ton of tunes over the last couple of years. And Jerry writes. We all write songs. I had a band called Automan.ca there, wrote 3 albums with Carlton. They're all my songs. And with the Dwarfs, like I said, Russ writes all the lyrics. It's how it's been. He's a great lyricist. You don't change something that's working. When it works, you stick with it. And we kind of always have been, one or two of us will get in a room, start the tunes, get the structure of the songs. Then we'll all get together, the 4 of us, and create the song, if you know what I mean, right? Like in an arrangement kind of way. But usually one or two of us will bring a song to the band, sort of thing. But we're like Van Halen. We're like Van Halen back in the day, though, because we share the wealth. It's not like, oh, this guy wrote the song and he's driving a Porsche and I got my bicycle driving down the street. Like the royalties are split. We split everything, no matter who writes what, whatever song's great.
So as you're writing, do you guys get together as you're writing, the whole group, the whole band?
No, like I just said, usually it starts with one or two of us in a room, right? Starting the process of writing. And then once the tune's all pretty much a song, then all of us get in a room and play it and turn it in, arrange it together and turn it into the Dwarf tune. Sort of.
So does Russ develop the main melody for the tune or what?
Oh yeah, he literally writes all. That's his thing. He writes lyrics, and the majority of the melodies he has to sing, he writes them too. He's a big part of the writing process. He's the lead singer. That's what he does. Right. But we all have a hand in writing, especially these days.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, and I love the fact that you guys have a collaborative approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's pretty hard for any musician will know this, including Brent. It's pretty difficult for 4 guys to jump in a room and write a song. Like we all have guitars in our hands and like, okay, like, I mean, you need some space to come up with, like, I got a verse, he's got a chorus, and we collaborate, right? And then bring it to the whole band kind of thing, right? I mean,
so these new tracks you're working on, then what would you say the sound that's going to be on those tracks? What would people be looking forward to hearing?
Well, it's cool because it's when we were in the studio demoing these songs that we thought we could almost release, but now we realize they've changed, so we can't release them. We were sitting in the studio together and just saying, isn't it strange that no matter what kind of song we're playing here, or the approach, or whatever kind of rock it is, if it's really heavy metal or is it just melodic rock, it turns into the Killer Dwarfs as soon as the 4 of us get in the studio and lay it down. It doesn't sound like the Killer Dwarfs though when it's just demoed. When it's one guy on demoing it, let's say he brings a song idea, it turns into the Killer Dwarfs when all 4 of us play it, and it's a magic thing, and it happens no matter what kind of music we attempt. It turns into a Killer Dwarf song. Big part of it is the vocalist, though. I mean, Russ has a distinct vocal sound that's the Killer Dwarfs. When you hear his voice, it's the Killer Dwarfs to me. But my drumming is a certain way too, and it all just makes a chemistry, and that's what the cool thing is about our band. We have that chemistry, and these new songs are just a continuation of some of the last albums we did 20 years ago, if you ask me. They're melodic metal songs, though. They're not super heavy. They're more melodic than heavy.
Cool. I'm glad you brought up chemistry, Darrell, because oftentimes, and I see it a lot here, somebody will, they'll record something and they'll bring in, local names, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I know why they're doing it, but you hear, I guess, the end result, and it's kind of, you brought the name in, but the vibe's kind of off, and you don't really want to say that to them.
Yeah.
But chemistry is very important, and people don't understand that. Really, sometimes it's better than having somebody that's got a million chops, and it's a chemistry piece.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, hopefully your band can stay together. I mean, that's a key thing. I mean, prime example is 2 of the Killer Dwarfs members leaving the band in 1984 or 85, and incoming 2 other members that completely changed the sound. Look at Stand Tall versus the first album. It's like 2 different bands in a way, other than Russ's voice. I mean, and I really noticed it when I heard it on the radio last week. When I heard that whole Stand Tall record in its entirety. I just went, wow, it's a great record, but is it ever different from Heavy Metal Breakdown and Can't Lose and all those tunes, right? So I think
Is some of that just the band change, or do you think a lot of that is maturity as well?
well, some time did go by, 2-3 years, and it's really just a songwriting direction, really. I mean, Mike brought a different flavor of songwriting to the band. He writes more melodic hooks, like kind of melodic stuff. He was into, that style, the Def Leppard, the Great White type bands of the day. I think Dawkins and that kind of stuff. That's what was big out of America at that time, right? And his direction was more towards the U.S., I guess, really, because he was really influential in songwriting when he came to the band. And we just ran with that, and I'm glad we did. I mean, I nothing against the first album, but let's face it, all the other albums sold so many more records than that first album, and it kind of reminds me of Rush's first album versus Fly By Night. Think about it. When Neil joined the band, Rush was a different band from Working Man and John Rutsey and all that. That was Rush. That was their first album, which was just raw rock like Led Zeppelin almost. Fly By Night was turning into prog rock, an interesting approach from Neil.
Yeah.
His influence was massive with Rush. I think the Dwarfs are the same, but really similar that way. From our first album to the second, it's to me is Rush's first album and Fly By Night. It really reminds me of that a lot. And I'm good with it, man. 40 years later, I'm sitting here.
With your own coffee.
Yeah.
I just watched it. I just watched an interview of Geddy Lee with Tom Power on CBC.
Yeah.
And,
cool.
If you haven't seen that interview, it's worth a watch.
Yeah. That is so cool. That whole book tour thing he's doing is amazing.
He talks about the influence that the drummer had on the band.
Right. Well, just what I just said. It's obvious. It's so obvious from Fly By Night, from that first album to Fly By Night. Yeah. Neil was a genius, man. Not only a lyricist, but turned out to be one of the greatest drummers in rock.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that you're a rock drummer, and you're a part of that writing process, and that writing process involves what layer you're going to bring to that cake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I put this side project band I had called Automan.ca, right? I put this band together when we had some downtime with the Dwarfs, and I recorded 3 albums with that band and toured. I even opened for Iron Maiden in that band. And Carlton Lockhart was a guitar player in the band. We're not touring now, but he was my writing partner. He became my writing partner. So just Carlton and I wrote all those records, and the drummer and the bass player weren't a part of it. But again, when we get into a rehearsal situation, arrangements start happening. But so I know that side of it too. I wrote 30 songs with that band. So, and with the Dwarfs, we have a different chemistry and a different way of writing. And like I said, Russ would be like the Neil Peart kind of thing with the lyrics and all that. So it's always been that way.
You're making Brent's mind spin, because he called me one day and he's like, as a drummer, how do you write a song? And I felt like, I guess you're just it was hilarious.
Well, you start with the cymbal. Right. There it is. And you calm. Boom. There's your song.
That's
boom.
Right.
Boom.
What do you do if the singer wants to tune down? Then your drums are all messed up, and oh my god, it's a whole scene, right?
Oh man, it's not that complicated.
Right.
It really isn't. If you make it complicated, you're missing it. You're missing the boat on it.
I'm a guitar player and a front man, but I value our drummer and our bassist above everybody in the band, because if the bassist and the drummer have got a chemistry and they can hold their shit together, everybody else can fuck up and it can still sound really good.
Yeah. Drummers are not allowed to fuck up. That's the thing. It's it's a stressful gig, actually. It's a pretty high stress gig. I mean, you know that you you literally never make a mistake. You can't make a mistake. You're the only guy that people will go, what was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Our players
Exactly.
be stoned and drunk and flailing away. No one knows. But
You're the timekeeper, man.
nothing against
You are
Jerry.
no, you're the timekeeper, and you are the most important piece of the puzzle, man.
Yeah, and again about the songwriting, right? Like Rust, like I said, Rust is just, I write lyrics, lots of lyrics, but Rust has been the lyricist in the Killer Dwarfs, and I'm not a guy that's got some kind of a jealous thing or something. You know what I mean? You can't be that.
Right.
I can't all of a sudden go to Rust and say, well, I'm going to write the lyrics on this song. That's all there is to it. I'm writing the next one. I'm doing it.
Right.
Why?
We're at the top.
That's not how the Killer Dwarfs work. So that's all I'm saying. Right? You got to be a team player in a rock band. You got to know your place. You got to know your place. The only reason that we've been together 40 years. Jerry's been in the band 30. Russ and I have been in it 40 years together. It's insane. But the only reason why is because we play as a team, and there's no bullshit. It's a great band to be in. I'm very lucky.
Very, very important. Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are all on the same page. I mean, that just makes it perfect. And the great thing is that there's that whole, we were talking about this not long ago on one of the shows about bus buddies.
Bus buddies?
Yeah, you know, when you're on the bus with somebody,
I love the bus.
Touring on the bus.
That.
Yeah, and you got to get along with your bus mates.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. That's when you know if you're in a band for real, when you're on a bus, because you can't escape. And shit happens, man. Shit's happened on the Dwarfs bus too. There's been bad and good. But that's rock and roll, man. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect science. It's one of the most insane jobs a person could ever try to achieve, is to be a rock star or be even a professional musician. It's a tough job. Someone's got to do it. The Pirates doing it.
and it
you
sounds
need lots
like
of this.
It sounds like your bandmates are of the same sort of mind, though. Like, it's kind of like, if something goes off the rails, we're all going to look at what role I played in that.
Right. Well, we actually really like each other. We're lucky. You know, we are on the same page. You know, Jerry, Johnny, Russ, and I, that's the Killer Dwarfs for the last over 11 years now of solid touring. We've actually been on our longest run almost in the whole career of the band with this lineup. And like I said, Jerry's been in the band since 1990. Like, I mean, there's not many bands left out there with three guys that are pretty much original guys. Yeah. Come on. Like, some of them are touring with no original guys. The Guess Who, Foreigner, these bands have no members in them. None.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
In name only.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. You know, I mean, it freaks me out. I mean, I like Foreigner, actually. I go see that. I know Kelly Hansen and stuff. They're great. But Foreigner's a different thing. I don't want to get into it because Mick Jones was in the band. He started that band. Mick Jones, the original songwriter and member of Foreigner, started Foreigner, but he got sick. Yeah. He ended up having a heart condition, and he ended up being in control of the band, but getting other players. I mean, he makes money off it and everything, right? So
right, we're a little bit past.
We're a
little bit past our hour. Something I wanted to touch base on it as well. A project you're involved in called Laidlaw.
Yeah, cool. I'll be quick about it. Thanks. Laidlaw was a band I was in on another hiatus of the Killer Dwarfs in 1995 during the grunge thing, and I moved to California. I got a green card. Like I said, it's in my books that I'm writing all the stories, and I joined this band that Nikki Sixx signed, and Nikki Sixx was my boss for 5 years. It was insane. And the band was a Southern rock band in the late 90s. We toured with Scorpions, Motley Crue, ZZ Top, and Leonard Skinner for 2 years. It was amazing. All over America. The only Canadian date we did was Massey Hall here in Toronto. I reunited with two of the members, Tommy Laidlaw and Buzzy James, last year. And it's our 25th anniversary of first Big Picnic record, and we've recorded a new record. He owns a studio, and I was down in Seal Beach, and we wrote a bunch of songs together, and it was amazing. We ended up recording 9 tracks. I busted them out. 2 of the songs are mine, the rest is Buzzy's, but I mean, we all worked on all the songs together again, so we're all like part of the writing. And this record's amazing. There's still needs to be 5 more lead vocal tracks to finish this record. I'll probably have to fly down there in January and do some backing tracks. And there's going to be a Laidlaw record come out for those fans that might remember that band. Crazy.
We're going to have you back on here because there's so much stuff that we didn't get that deep into tonight. Laidlaw being one of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
no problem. No problem. We'll do a part 2, right, Sean?
Yeah.
Well, yes, and I gotta. Darrell and I was up in Toronto. Actually, it was right around the time that things shut down again.
Yeah.
We were supposed to hook up and we couldn't, but we will very, very soon.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah. Anytime you're up here, bro, contact me.
Yeah.
My dog will walk you down to the pub.
Love it.
Yeah, I think we should go. We'll do a part 2 and we'll get into, I mean, you're talking 40 years of rock and roll here. You can't get it all in an hour. And I got a lot of shit going on right now. I got a lot of stuff happening. I'm writing my new book. Like I got the coffee stuff, then the Dwarfs. It's going to get complicated with them. We got a documentary in the works. There's so much stuff happening. So we'll have to do a part 2.
Definitely got to do a part 2. Have you back on here again and talk a little more about Laidlaw and what's going to be happening with them.
Yeah.
And of course,
thank you.
There's a backstory to the first part of Laidlaw that is related. We're not going to talk about it tonight, but we're going to just mention it. Related to Nikki Sixx. We're going to talk about that probably on the next show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of Nikki Sixx in Laidlaw because he signed the band. He was basically our, like he was not our manager, but he was our record label.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned. We're gonna have our friend Darrell back for another show, and we'll have a part 2 of this thing. And who knows how many times this will happen? Because I know what's gonna.
This is my last interview this year. Remember, have a good Christmas. Have a good Christmas. Have a good New Year. Everybody, stay safe. Don't get too bombed. And we'll see everybody in the new year. And yeah, I'll come back on again when I got some more Dwarf information about touring. We'll have more dates. And I'd like to be on here and actually tell you the dates we're doing in the new year. I can't right now, but if I come back on in February or something, I'll be able to tell you.
Well, when you come back on, I'm going to have a little part of a segment of the show called Dwarf Trivia.
Okay, nice. I like it.
And we'll ask a few dwarf questions. All right. Listen.
Always a pleasure, Darrell.
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me. I know it's a little long-winded again.
From Halifax.
See you guys.
I'm Kenny, and you are not. This has been